Kia ora Year 10. This is the second practice task that I'm going to go through for the Level 1 number internal in a couple of weeks. Just want to apologise at the outset for the drumming noise in the background. We've just got a drum kit in the house, so you're just going to have to put up with it, sorry. Okay, so this task is called Mike and Huia Go to England, and it's got lots of different numeric reasoning skills in it. As usual, the hardest part of this is figuring out what we're being asked to do. So let's go through the task. Make sure you've got your maths book ready, your calculator, a pen and a highlighter. If you're in my class, I handed you out this one last week, and we've actually done it once in class, but let's go through it again. It's a really good one. So Mike and Huia are planning to travel to England for a holiday, and they plan to be in England for 3 months, and during that time they're going to take a 3-week bus tour through France and Spain. Sounds very nice. Right, this activity requires you to calculate the amount of money Mike and Huia will need to save for their trip and how long it will take them to save it. Okay, so that makes sense. This next bit, as I said in the last video, is not about this particular task, but it's really important. First of all, you have to work on your own, and you have to show your calculations. You've got to use correct mathematical statements. So that means, for example, the big one here is no terrible running arithmetic. Okay, so you know the thing you did back in Year 9 where you had lots of equal signs that said things like this. 3 times 4 equals 12 plus 2 equals 14 plus 1 equals 15 and so on. Okay, this is awful maths because that is not a true statement. Okay, that is a true statement. That's running arithmetic. I know that your teachers will have taught you about that in class, so I'm not going to say anything more about it now. Anyway, clearly communicate your strategy and method at each stage of the solution. The easiest way to do that is to use some words. You don't have to write paragraphs, just use some underlining and some bullet points. You will be assessed on the quality of your discussion and reasoning and how well you link this to the context. So that's especially important at the end, that we actually say what we've figured out about how long it's going to take them to save up the money. Okay, so here come all the numbers. Right. Mike and Huia, we'll read the numbers first and then we'll do a list of what we've got to work out. Mike and Huia estimate that for each day that they're in England, between them, they're going to need, on average, $250 to the nearest $50 when they're not on the bus trip. Okay, and we'll talk later about whether we're going to use that $250 or do something with it. Huia earns $850 each week, and Mike earns $790 each week, and Huia is able to save 2/5 of her income, and Mike saves 35% of his income. So straight away there you can see you're going to be doing a fraction of calculation and a percentage of calculation. The cost for the return air tickets is $2,500 each, so that's easy. We just need to remember they're both going to need a plane ticket. And the cost of the travel insurance is $385 plus GST for the two of them. Okay, now on to the bus trip. So the 3-week bus trip costs 2,000 Great Britain pounds per person, and pounds are used as currency in England. The exchange rate is this. So we know that there's going to be an exchange rate calculation. So let's look at what is a bit different from carbon credits in this one. So the obvious thing to me that stands out is that there's no ratio calculation in here. I think there was a ratio in carbon credits, and I think this one's a little bit easier. Okay, so what we've got to do now is to say, well, what are the different things we need to work out? And I like doing this with a list. So we've got to work out saving, and we've got to work out costs. So the saving comes from Mike's job and from Huia's job, from their earnings. Right, what are the costs? Well, let's just list them. We've got the airfare, we've got the trip insurance, we've got the bus trip, and we've got spending money. So we're going to work out each of those 6 things in turn. Right, so let's do, first of all, what we're going to do is work out how much they can save each week. So Huia saves, let's go back to here. Right. Huia saves 2/5 of her income, which is $850. Mike saves 35% of his income. So Huia saves 2/5 of 850, and that equals 340 per week. Mike saves 35% of 790. The easiest way to do this is to change that into a decimal, which will be 0.35 times 790. So he saves 276.50 per week. Now, how did I do that fraction of? Well, there's some different ways that you can go here. Most of you will spot that 2/5 is just 0.4, so you can do that calculation. But write it out like this, because you're showing us that you know how to work with a fraction. Okay. If you don't spot that, what you can put in your calculator is either use the fractions button, or you go 2 divided by 5, and then it's important that you do the equals button, and that'll give you it as a decimal. Okay, so lots of different ways to go there. So now we've worked out the weekly saving, or just about. So total saving per week is equal to 340 plus 276.50, which gives us 616.50. All right, trip costs. Airfares, really easy. 2 of them, 1 each, which costs $5,000. Insurance. So the insurance price is given to us, let's just go up to the question again, as $385 plus GST. But we pay the price including GST, or they pay the price including GST. So it's 385 times 1.15, which is 442.75. Okay, if you're in my class, you might have done that to start with as a bubble diagram like this, where I'm increasing by a percentage, and it's fine to show you working like that. Okay, just make sure that you do have on here this and all of this. Almost all of you, though, will now be doing that calculation straight up. Okay, so that's with GST. Right, what's next? Well, the next thing we've got to do is, let's do the bus trip. Now, the bus trip is where we have to do an exchange rate calculation, because the 3-week bus trip costs an amount in pounds per person. So I'm going to do it for 1 person and then times it by 2. The exchange rate is given to us as 1 New Zealand dollar, and we're going to need to have that the other way around. So again, there's a fast way to do this, and there's a slower way using the arrow diagram that I've taught you. So we've got 1 New Zealand dollar is equal to 0.5091 pounds. I need to know the value of 1 pound. So what I need to do here is to divide by 0.5091. Let's do that in a different colour pen. There. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. So I'm just rearranging my exchange rate, and that gives me this number, 1.9642506 New Zealand dollars. Now, you don't have to carry all of those decimal places, but remember, we want to avoid rounding too early because we lose accuracy. So I'm going to leave it looking a bit silly like that for now. I'm just going to make sure that I'm rounding well later on. That gives us the value in New Zealand dollars of 1 pound, but the trip costs £2,000. So it's going to be times 2,000. And I do the same thing here. And I get my New Zealand dollar cost, which is this. Now, if you're doing that the fast way, you'd write it like this. Cost in NZD, 2,000 times 1 over 0.5091 equals $3,928.50 NZD. Right, so obviously that's much faster, but only do that way if you're confident that you understand what you're doing. Okay, and Education Perfect do it like that. So that's my bus trip cost, and I need to take that cost and I need to double it. So we'll just write that down. For 2 people, bus trip $3,928.50 times 2, which is $7,857. So we've done most of it now. Let's go back up to that list we made at the start. We've done the airfare, we've done the insurance, we've done the bus trip. Now we need to do the spending money. So what do they need? Well, for each day that they're in England, they need on average $250. So we're assuming here, and we should write this down, that the bus trip covers everything, right? But you would hope for that much money that it did. Okay, so how many days have I got? Well, they're going on the trip for how long? 3-month trip. So we have to work out how many days that is. Spending money. So we're going to write down what's in our head. If we assume June, July, and August, then that would be 30 plus 31 plus 31 days, which is 92 days. The other way I could do it is to say 3 months is 1/4 of a year. So what's 1/4 of 365 days? Well, that gives me 91.25 days. So I'm going to be conservative, right? Because I want to make sure I don't run out of money. So conservatively, 92 days. Right, now spending per day, we've got to work out. So we need spending money for 92 minus 21 days, so 71 days. Let's look now at what this 250 is about. Well, we're told that it's $250 to the nearest 50. So let's see how we can think about that. We've got 250 here. We're saying to the nearest 50. So we're going to put half of it on each side. Here we get 225. And here we get just about up to 275. So if you think about a number line that goes on forever, if we're dividing in bits of 50, we're going to start here, but then my next one's actually going to start at 275. Okay, so here, 250 to the nearest $50 means that at worst I'm going to need about 275 a day. So we're going to round to the nearest dollar. We could think of going to 274.99 cents, but that is just stupid, right? So rounding to the nearest dollar, we get 275. So the spending cost is 71 times 275, which gives me 19,525. I'm going to pause now and just write down the list so I can get this done in one video. Okay, so there you go. There are the costs written out, and the trip cost is this much to the nearest dollar. Note that I've written a full sentence there to say what I'm doing, because I'm getting to the important part. Okay, so how long will it take them to save? What do they save? They save $616.50 per week. So they need this. That many weeks, which is about, we'll round that up, about 54 weeks. So there you go. Mike and Huia will need 54 weeks to save for the trip, assuming that there are no changes in costs, savings, or the exchange rate. Thanks for watching. Let me know if this is helping and what further questions you would like me to do.